Well, good morning, fellow gardeners, horticultural enthusiasts, and anybody else listening this morning. Welcome back to the show. This is Garden America. John Bagnasco is with me. I'm Brian Main. Tiger Palafox, by the way, camping in Flagstaff, Arizona, John. That's where I went to college, NAU.
Really?
Yeah, got a text from him last evening. We're camping in Flagstaff. So
now,
I said,
the temperature in Flagstaff, or the climate in Flagstaff, is a lot different than Phoenix and Tucson, right?
Absolutely. Northern Arizona and southern Arizona, Tucson, Phoenix, drastically different. Flagstaff is over 7,000 feet in elevation. We get a lot of snow. I say we. I went to college there. A lot of snow, a lot of trees, a lot of backcountry, beautiful country. The aspens grow there. Wonderful geography.
Huh.
You would love it, John.
We used to have, there were two small towns in that area. They might have been a little bit lower, but remember we used to be on a radio station there. There was Sholo. And
I know Sholo very well, a very small community.
And Concho, right?
Concho, absolutely. Yeah, we used to get a call from Concho now and then. The guy was off the grid.
Yeah. And I was reading at one time that somebody said that had the best climate of, or the best air, clean air of anywhere in the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
Those days we had a lot of old listeners that would call in, and many off the grid, like you mentioned. Boy,
That's the trouble with old listeners. Eventually they go off the grid.
They go off the grid. Where are they now? Anyway, did you have a good week? I know we still
Oh my gosh, what a week.
Just so hot, and then I run into these people who say, just be grateful. Okay, I'm grateful. I'm still uncomfortable. And I don't handle the heat well sometimes when it gets to a point where you can't escape.
But it was night and day. It was hot heat, and then we had that wonderful rain yesterday.
Rain cooled things off to about mid to upper 70s, and that felt wonderful. That was like a air conditioning.
We had between 3/4 and an inch of rain in Fallbrook. I imagine you got close to the same.
Close to that, yeah. And that's pretty good for San Diego.
And it was it was a drizzle most of the day.
Yeah.
So it didn't, it went right into the soil. And there was plenty of room for it with all the heat we had. But it's so nice now. I'm so happy. The only bad thing for me, and I don't think it was that bad here in San Diego, but we had almost gale force winds.
Yeah, we did. And this is because of Tropical Storm K, which was a hurricane that came north up from Baja.
Tropical storm. It's not a hurricane.
No, I said it was a tropical storm.
You said it was Tropical Storm K, which was a hurricane.
Yes, it was a hurricane to begin with, which became a tropical storm.
If I would have let you finish
instead
of walking all over you.
Can we take two on that? Let's go back and start that over again. Yes, Hurricane K became a tropical storm, and we're experiencing the remnants, the sort of the outer edge of that tropical storm.
Right. From now on, remind me to just assume that you know what you're talking about.
That could be dangerous, though, because there's always that 1 out of 10 chance that I'll get the eye roll from you. I don't want the John Bagnasco eye roll. But now where you live, it was very hot all week. You spend every day 3 hours watering.
Oh, at least keeping things watered. And then yesterday, because of the winds, I had to stake things up so that they didn't fall over. About midway through the day, I went and stood things back up because the wind stopped. And I thought, all these plants that are laying on their side need to be watered. So I wanted to let the rain get to them. So I went out with my hoodie and stood everything up. And I don't think there were any heavy rains after that.
It's interesting to see what kind of plants do well in this weather and the others that don't so much. Like, you kind of like this humidity, don't you? You like the heat, huh? A little bit of rain coming your way now. And just to see the variations. My roses are doing fantastic.
Yeah, it's good weather for roses. I was surprised because it was so hot that the leaves on all my roses were burning, except the ones that were in the ground. The ones that were in the ground look great, even though the temperature got up to 102, 101.
Wow.
It was close to 100 every single day in Fallbrook.
Well, it had to be because we had temps in the mid-90s. We're about, 20 miles south of you?
Yeah.
Roughly?
Yeah. You would think further south you'd be warmer.
You would, but not in this case.
Closer to the coast, right?
Yeah, much closer than you are. Well, those on Facebook Live, those on Biz Talk Radio, welcome to the show as we spend Saturday together. Our good buddy, our colleague, co-host Tiger Palafox. He's enjoying a little camping trip in Flagstaff, Arizona, my old stomping grounds. So John and I in studio this morning. Want to thank our IT expert Daniel in here running the cameras, doing what Tiger normally does. And he's working on the website right now. So if you have any questions about the website, those that are watching or those listening, actually those that are watching, because Biz Talk Radio, this is a pre-recorded show from last week. But those on Facebook Live, any questions about our website? Daniel's here, our IT guy. So extra special. We've got people humid. Are you experiencing the terrible heat and smoke from all the fires? That's Carla. Yeah, boy, oh boy. Yeah, a lot going on. So do be careful.
I heard that the wind in the Cuyamacas yesterday, 109 miles per hour.
What?
109.
Isn't that hurricane?
I would think so.
Category something? I know there were gusts here in San Diego County, 40 to 50 miles an hour, and that's why a lot of things blew over. Boy, oh boy, it is that time of the year. And hopefully, now what's going to happen next week? Are we going to cool down, John? I got to depend on you.
Yep, the whole week.
Really?
And even in Fallbrook, where we've had the last 2 weeks near 100-degree temperatures every single day, now it's going to be in the low 80s.
Gina says 14 fires in Idaho.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, wow is right. So we are going to get a cooling trend. I like to hear that.
Idaho reminds me, I've never lived in Idaho. I've only visited, I think I've only been in Idaho 3 times. But the temperatures in Idaho remind me, not the temperatures, but the seasons remind me a little bit of Michigan, where you have 4 nice weeks in the spring, 4 great weeks in the fall, and the rest of the year is miserable.
Yeah, it's either hot or cold, right?
Yeah. We went to visit Gina in May, and it had just snowed.
Now, I'm trying to think from a latitude standpoint, Michigan and Idaho, probably almost about the same in latitude.
Something, now that you bring up Michigan, you know what I learned about the Great Lakes? If you did, there's no reason for me to tell you.
I could come back with a lot of Great Lakes
Lake
trivia.
Huron.
Okay, Lake Huron.
Do you ever hear about Lake Huron?
No, Erie, Superior, Ontario, but
Michigan, yeah.
Michigan. What about Huron?
How many islands do you think are in Lake Huron?
10,600.
Off by 20,000. There's 30,000 islands in Lake Huron.
Well, first of all, anybody who's never been to the Great Lakes.
As a matter of fact, the largest freshwater island in the world is in Lake Huron.
That's great trivia.
Yeah.
But again, and you can attest to this. If you haven't been to the Great Lakes, you're thinking, big lake. No, they're like oceans. It's like an ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, they get the waves. Well, look at the Edmund Fitzgerald that went down in 1976.
Right.
Huge waves. You might as well have been in the middle of the Pacific. So those are big lakes. There's a reason why they're called great.
Yeah.
They're Great Lakes.
They are great.
They are great. All right, we've got a few minutes until the first break.
Another thing about the Great Lakes,
go ahead,
John? Why they're so... Right now, they're some of the cleanest they've ever been in history because of the quagga mussel.
Oh, the old quagga mussel.
Yeah.
You know what? I need a quagga mussel, don't you?
Well, it's an invasive species, and there's now trillions of them. And they filter out the water and
they're
clean
cleaning things up, aren't they? The quagga mussel.
Yeah, they're wreaking havoc on the native flora and fauna, but at least the water's clean.
I like a good flora fauna now and then. All right, John, we do have a break coming up here in just a few minutes. We'll bring our guest on. Today's guest just happens to be Marianne. Is it Willburn? John?
Oh, the guest is Marianne Willburn.
Okay, Tiger's not here, so
she's going to talk to us about tropical plants. She just wrote a new book. I'm excited about that.
Okay, whenever I ask questions today, it's obviously directed toward you because
not Daniel.
Tiger's not here. Maybe a Daniel reference now and then.
You want the quote of the week?
Let's do the quote of the week, and then talk about your newsletter briefly. Then we'll go to a break.
It's the first time I've ever done an anonymous quote.
There was actually somebody named Anonymous.
Really?
That these quotes are all from. People think.
What kind of pronouns do they use?
Well, people think that's because we don't know who said the quote. But no, there was a gentleman by the name of Anonymous. So let's give him credit.
Greek fella.
He was a Greek fella. Yeah, the big beard.
And the reason I put this in was kind of because we're going to be talking to Marianne about her book, and I just thought it was funny. And the quote is, "You can't buy happiness, but you can buy plants," and that's pretty much the same thing.
That's a great quote. I love that quote. That's beautiful.
It's one I really identify with.
Okay, the name of her book now is a book in itself.
Oh my gosh! Do we have time?
Yeah, we got a little bit of time. I want people, before we bring her on, to understand and know what the title of her book is.
Okay, the title of Marianne's book is "Tropical Plants and How to Love Them: Building a Relationship with Heat-Loving Plants When You Don't Live in the Tropics. Angels, trumpets, gingers, hibiscus, canna lilies, and more."
And that's just the title.
Yeah, you thought it was the first chapter.
Wow.
Or the introduction.
So if I type in calla lilies or trumpets, then I might that might direct me on the internet.
We could
to her
ask
book.
Marianne about that, but they did that to Bob Reed Miller and I in our last book.
Right,
and
because they want keywords when people are typing it in
Yeah.
online. Okay, that is going to do it for segment number 1. We're going to take a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. By the way, those on Facebook Live, questions, comments, when we bring our guest on, going to be talking about her book, tropical ideas, all that kind of thing here as we continue on this Saturday morning here on Garden America. I'm Brian Main. John Begnasco, Tiger is off camping in Flagstaff. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. Okay, we are back. Thank you so much for joining us. Those on Biz Talk Radio, we appreciate you tuning in to this pre-recorded show. Tiger Palafox, our colleague, our good friend, he's off camping this week, northern Arizona, the great state of Arizona, up in Flagstaff. So, Tiger, hopefully you're having a good time. Daniel, our IT guy, is in studio. I've got John Begnasco. We get all the business out of the way. So with that in mind, John, unless we have anything else to talk about, let's bring in our guest and talk about that fantastic book.
Yeah, our guest is Marianne Willburn. And she just wrote a book on tropical plants, and we've just had tropical weather, right?
Oh, boy, we still have tropical weather.
Right, so perfect time to talk to Marianne. Hi, Marianne. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you. We were just talking about the title of your book, and having written a couple books recently, I think you probably got hit by the editor to extend the title as far as you could for keywords. But the basis of the book, Tropical Plants and How to Love Them, I thought was a cute way to approach the subject.
Yes, they didn't change the way I was going to approach it. They did try and put a lot of words on the cover. You're absolutely right. Because they could have even put another word on there. They could have put subtropical, because a lot of the plants that we think of as tropical are actually subtropical. And those are a lot of the ones that store the best for us, easiest for us in northern climates. But I think it's got enough words on the front cover. It's a fun idea, just the idea that there's different ways to play with these plants and love them and store them and have them in your life.
Well, maybe we should get right down to the different ways of romancing your houseplants. And before we do, what was it that motivated you to write the book and write it in this particular style?
Well, it was after working with tropical plants for about 10 years and subtropical plants, and having been a cynic myself about them. I am a temperate gardener. I garden in Virginia, on the other side of the states from you guys. And our winters are cold. We have a wonderful palette of plants here, and I when I would see tropical plants in stores and garden centers, I would sort of think, well, why? Why would I do that to myself? Why add that to my garden and add more work? And I'm very fortunate as a garden writer that I see a lot of gardens by a lot of very talented people. And I, at that time, started seeing gardeners and designers using them strategically in gardens. So they really enhanced the temperate garden rather than sort of dominated the garden and made it a tropical garden. And so I started working with them more. And the more I worked with them, the more I realized that you don't have to approach every single one the same way. And not only that, you don't have to approach them the same way every year. You can some years just have an incredible summer romance with a plant that you adore, which is never going to be hardy for you, and just say sayonara at the end of the growing season and start again in the spring, or not start again in the spring. Or you can bring some in and really fawn over them, and you know, they can cause you huge amounts of grief over the winter, making your windowsills look terrible. Those are the high maintenance partners that I talk about, that we do a lot for, and we only do it until we're finally finished with them and we can't do it anymore. So there's so many different ways to cope with these plants, but there's really easy ways of storage. Those are the best friends plants. Those are the ones that just go dormant in a dark situation. You don't have to set up lights. They just keep on keeping on all the way through the winter with very little from you. And then, of course, our long-term commitments, which are really, really strong house plants that do double duty outside and inside. I'm a huge proponent of the idea of the house plant vacation, giving them time outdoors.
You know, I'm old enough that I remember the first houseplant craze. Well, actually, that would be Victorian time, so I'm not that old. But the one from the 60s, I remember well. And back then, overwintering plants was something that if you had a plant, you were going to overwinter it. Even if it was a geranium, you know, you were going to hang it upside down in your basement and then try to revive it in the spring. But it seems now that that people are more willing to use a plant on a temporary basis, especially if it's something fast growing. And you don't have to hold it till the next year. It's all right if you want to, as you say, you know, I'm going to do this year, and next year I'm going to try something new.
Yeah, that keeps the garden very fluid and exciting. You know, if you always take your Christmas tree out and you decorate it exactly the same way every year and it goes in exactly the same corner, after a few years of doing that, you sort of say, well, how about we just skip the tree this year? You know, you just sort of get bored by it. And I think that plants can be very similar, that you have a basic structure of your garden, but if you just add a pop here and there, that maybe you do the same thing for 2 or 3 years, and then you say, you know what, I don't really want that pop there. Let's put that here, or let's not use that at all. I want to encourage gardeners to play a little bit more with their gardens and not feel that level of duty towards the plants. But if they want to, of course, I mean, I have a lot of plants in storage, and I'm starting to look. It's fall, and it's almost fall. The specter of fall is looming, and it's time to sort of look at what I have and decide, what am I going to do with it next year? What do I think I might do with it, and do I want to store it? These plants are a lot more available to us than they were in the 60s and 70s, too. That's something to think about, that we have a lot more availability. They are a little less precious than they were, and that for better or for worse. But it does give us allow us an ability to play a little bit more.
Well, I remember back in the 60s, if I wanted to buy a variegated philodendron, it would cost me, you know, the regular philodendron would have been $9.99. The variegated might have been $14.99. And now I go online and I can see a Thai constellation philodendron might be $15,000. I mean, what's the fascination with the variegation now?
Yeah, what is the deal?
Yeah.
I'll get myself into trouble if I go into it too deeply, but it's a collector's world right now. It's like I need to have one of every plant, and it's almost like a Beanie Baby thing or a Pokemon card thing or something along those lines. And I think that very much like the phases that we didn't see, but that happened with the tulip. I mean, they were
right.
in the 18th century, they were trading these things for enormous amounts for one bulb, and then that slowly dissolved. These things go in trends, and I don't think I will be seeing a variegated philodendron, or not philodendron, monstera for $549 in a 4-inch pot like I saw the other day.
Hey, Marianne, I'm sorry to cut you off. We do have to take a break, so keep that train of thought. Have to stay in time for the network, our good friends on Biz Talk Radio. With that in mind, I'm Brian Main. Tiger is off today, along with John Begnasco. Thank you for tuning in on this weekend, or maybe listening after the fact. Whatever you're doing outside, inside, we appreciate you listening to Garden America. Back after these messages from our good friends on Biz Talk Radio. Welcome back to the show. Those on Biz Talk Radio, thank you for tuning in. This is last week's show, pre-recorded show. Want to make that loud and clear. The rest of us on Facebook Live, feel free to interact. Of course, asking your questions, your comments right there. Post them on our Facebook page. Back with Marianne. John, Marianne, so sorry I had to cut you off to go into the break, but please continue as we are having a good time and learning a lot here on Garden America.
Yeah, just prior to the break, Marianne Willburn, author of the new book, Tropical Plants and How to Love Them, was just telling us she's probably not going to give a lot of love to a $549 Monstera.
I have one. I shouldn't say that. It'll be stolen now, but it's actually sitting outside on my porch. But it was given to me by a friend who bought one in the 1970s and has had it ever since, and doesn't look at, he paid maybe $20 for it or something at the time, and so I have a little guy off of that one. So these things come and go, and it's important, if you've got hard-earned money, to recognize the level of that, and perhaps not overspend. Spend on the things that are really going to bring you joy, but maybe not $549 worth of joy, right?
Well, do you think that investing in variegated aroids would be better than Bitcoin?
Oh, Lord. Wow, that's equally a gamble.
Yep.
It's a really good point, though. I mean, truly, I do remember having conversations with a cousin of mine about Beanie Babies and how this one was worth $150 and this one was worth $220, and then seeing those Beanie Babies 10 years later in a Goodwill thrift store, for 50 cents a dollar. So we have to recognize that these plants absolutely have value, and they bring a lot of the beauty to our spaces. We just got to keep our eyes wide open. If I had spent that kind of money on a plant like that, I'd be very loath to bring it outside.
Oh, yeah.
Because you'd feel almost what could happen to it out here. But the reality is that plants are outdoor creatures. That's where they came from. They didn't come from houses. And so it's really actually quite good for them to get them outside into extra levels of sunlight or ambient light, extra levels of water, rainwater, extra ventilation, all these different things. Whether that's in a shady spot or ultimately in a sunny spot, it's better for the plant. You bring that plant back indoors in the fall. like I'm just about to in about 2 weeks' time, just making your inside spaces look fantastic because they are healthier.
We had a picture on our newsletter of you, and it looks like you're in the middle of a rainforest or somewhere in Hawaii.
Well, that wasn't a green screen, John?
No, and I assume that it actually is probably your yard?
It really is my garden, yes. But that is what a red Abyssinian banana or two can do to a space. My entire yard is not a tropical jungle. It's a very temperate garden. And lots of very normal plants, so to speak, normal in quotations. But I do have areas that it's a little bit more subtropical or tropical, and those areas are sort of near a little pond. Because I have such a young garden, it's only about 8 years old, those tropicals grow so vigorously that they can create the sense of a garden and the maturity of a garden while all of my smaller temperate shrubs are getting bigger. And so I can, in a way, have an instant garden without the amount of time that it takes. For instance, I bought 3 18-inch red Abyssinian bananas this year to fill a space that I've only just claimed, only just weeded and got the turf out and got mulch on it, just to fill that space, which they did beautifully. They are now, it's almost, it seems wrong to say, but they are actually about 12 feet tall now. That's incredible growth. And I didn't water them. They have ambient water. We get a lot more water here in Virginia than you do in San Diego. So if you were putting them in San Diego, you'd want to be watering them.
What is this water you speak of?
That's a lot of bang for buck.
You're not kidding.
For a $10 plant.
Well, the tropics, plants grow like crazy in the tropics because they have everything they need. They've got heat, they've got moisture, and they're never lacking. And I imagine that during the summer, Virginia is pretty much like the tropics. You've got the humidity and you've got the heat. It's ideal conditions for plants to grow, tropicals.
I like to say we garden in Jumanji. But it's all a matter of it's all relative, because I'm from California originally. I'm from northern central California up in the foothills. Mm-hmm. And we've been out here for 20 years. And people out here, they say, oh, it's humid, but it's not. They don't think of it as humid as the South. That's real tropical, subtropical weather. And yes, that heat helps us grow these plants. That humidity helps us grow these plants. But heat is building all over the United States in many, many places. And so you can sort of play with that a little bit. These plants respond to that heat exceptionally well. In an area that's a dry summer climate like you have, it's fun to use these as container plants, many of them. Of course, matching the vigor of the plant to the container, so that you can water very specifically when you have to be very careful with water usage. I wouldn't necessarily throw them into a garden unless they were hardy enough to be able to stay in that garden over the winter, which many of the plants can in San Diego. Witness the Huntington Botanical Gardens in Pasadena. They have an incredible subtropical and tropical garden. So unless you've got a really a decent source of water, you don't want to fill your garden with tropical plants. That would probably be fairly irresponsible. But some containers, adding some pop here and there, fantastic.
Well, what was the first tropical surprise that you had?
Probably canna. Because I say as a surprise because I really disliked it when I would see it at the garden centers. It would always be in the back of the garden centers and little black pots looking sort of sad and dry and pushing out of its pot, and that was a lot to do with availability. There weren't very many. It was always the same ones, and I just would always think, well, what's the point of that? And what's the point of the work? And then I saw it in a friend's garden down in Charlotte in North Carolina, and I saw the Pretoria canna, which is a beautiful yellow and green wide-leafed canna. It wasn't blooming yet. It was just all about that foliage, and it was tucked behind a grass, which it normally wouldn't be in a subtropical situation. And it was just softened and made beautiful, and I thought, oh, wow, I want to grow that. And at the same time, I saw another beautiful, beautiful elephant ear, xanthosoma, called lime singer. And it was in a shady location, and it was next to a hydrangea, just a regular macrophylla hydrangea. And it was just adding so much to the scene without saying, hey, this is a tropical garden, that's really what sort of sparked me to start, hey, maybe I'll try a little bit of this. Maybe I'll do this, and stop being so biased against this group of plants. And then start experimenting with which ones I could keep and which ones I could overwinter, and which ones weren't worth it to do that to.
You know, I agree with you on cannas. I don't think they're, just in my opinion, they're good container plants because they really don't show off their best until they're in the ground. And they get a chance to spread out. Then they really look good. You know, Brian, your patio sounds a little bit like what Marianne's doing.
Yeah.
And by coincidence, you have the red bananas on your patio, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And giving it a little tropical feel, but taking a designated area and designing the space to give you that feel that you're looking for is something that you can do no matter where you are in the United States.
We're going to take a break, a quick break here for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Going to come back with our final segment, Hour 1 on Biz Talk Radio. But, of course, those that are used to tuning in and watching us on Facebook Live, we just keep on rolling. So, again, I'm Brian Main along with John Bagnasco. Marianne's our guest this morning, talking tropicals and other things. So do stay with us again on Facebook Live. Questions, comments right there in the comments section. So we're going to take a break. After these words, we're coming right back. Our good friends on Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. Okay, we are back. If you are keeping track of things on Biz Talk Radio, Hour 1, this is our final segment as we lead you up to news time coming up top of the hour. And if you're with us for the second hour, we're back at 6 minutes after. Time is no factor for those of us on Facebook Live. We keep on rolling, and we're so pleased to have you along, our guest this morning, Marianne, Willburn, John. And, tropical is something I'm into, you're into. So far, learning a lot. I don't think I have her book, the title of the book memorized yet, though, but I am going to work on that.
Well, playing off the title of her book, Marianne defined 5 types of loving relationships with
Yep.
plants in her book. And I wondered if you could maybe take a few minutes here, Marianne, and go over those 5 different types of plant relationships, maybe starting with the summer romance.
Absolutely. Yes, the summer romance are basically our summer annuals, and we're really trained as gardeners to accept a certain amount of summer annuals that we're okay throwing away at the end of the season, but they actually might be okay as a perennial plant in their native habitats, but we've trained ourselves that way that those are okay. This is a way of looking at some of these higher value plants and saying, I'm going to use this the exact same way. I'm going to buy that mandevilla at the beginning of the year. I'm going to have 5-6 wonderful months with it, and then I'm not going to worry about needing to keep it alive because it's going to be very difficult to keep indoors in my space because maybe I don't have room or what have you. So that's what a summer romance is. It's just enjoying that plant and getting a lot of bang for your buck out of that long growing season. And certainly you guys have a much longer growing season than I do even. And
also something that makes the garden centers happy.
Yeah,
is
right.
if you're just going to have a summer romance.
I agree. And I am not I'm a very frugal gardener, so I'm not of a disposable mindset, but I recognize that there are certain plants that if I don't put it into my head that I'm just going to enjoy this the same way that I would enjoy a bouquet of flowers, except I'm going to enjoy it for a lot longer than that, then I can make that transition, and I can have a lot of fun and really decorate an area of my garden the way that I want to.
What an excellent point also. You think about, I can spend $15 for a bouquet of flowers that I'm going to throw away at the end of 10 days, but think twice maybe about a summer annual or a plant that you're going to use for a summer romance that you're going to have for several months.
Yes, I mean, like Brian's red Abyssinian banana there, he can just say, hey, that was fantastic. It's probably zone 10. I don't think it'll overwinter for you. But you can use it just for the summer and get so much enjoyment out of it. At the end of the summer, it can go. Or you can store it if you wish to, but you don't have to. And some years you may decide, I'm going to store it. And some years you may decide, you know what, that was a fun ride. That was really fun. Maybe I'll call you next spring. We'll do this again.
All right.
See if the spark is still there.
Now, what about moving from a summer romance into a long-term commitment?
Oh, boy.
Well, yeah. Well, these are the plants. The long-term commitment plants in my book are our house plants, but they're very specifically are strong house plants that you don't have to cause it too much. Every plant needs care, but these are the plants that really don't, they're not the ones that you sort of look at and think, oh boy, that's, it's alive. They're the ones that just light up that corner, or they create an architectural statement in a windowsill. They're the ones that are just so strong. They can cope with lower levels of humidity in the house during the winter. And then you can take those same plants and use them out on your porch, and use them out on your deck, use them in your garden even, plunged into a garden bed in their pots. And then, so you're constantly doing this double duty with these plants, and they're getting healthier because of it. That's not every houseplant that we have. In fact, it's a small subset of them. But I have many of them that are about to come back inside. I have some bromeliads, I have Schefflera, I have Strelitzia, bird of paradise, those type of plants. They've had a wonderful time just sort of growing healthier, more colorful sometimes. The variegation in a lot of these plants is enhanced after that wonderful season outdoors. And then they come back in, and you guys have you've got to take care of them, but it's not a difficult relationship. It's a really easy one. It's very different than the high-maintenance partner.
Can you imagine somebody just tuning into the show right now, not knowing it's a garden show, and thinking, well, that's nice. They're talking about relationships and commitment, so on and so forth.
Well, I was just going to mention that Brian would really like some examples of friends with benefits.
Okay. Absolutely. These are the tropical plants that you can eat. It's not just be beautiful in your garden, but you can eat them. And I've put a whole bunch of different examples in the book, and I use them very often. In fact, right now I am renovating my kitchen garden, and the only vegetables, quote, that I have are really flavorings that are friends with benefits. They are lemongrass, a very beautiful grass that grows well in containers, grows fabulously in the ground, and is possibly hardy for you guys. That is also flavors so many wonderful things, from drinks to curries to stews. That's a Friends with Benefits plant. Turmeric. That turmeric that we keep hearing about all the time, that you're supposed to be taking with your supplements and in your drinks and in your stew, that grows very, very well in the garden, but it's also an incredibly beautiful plant. And that at the end of the season, you can either store it, or you can take half of it and put those little rhizomes into the freezer, where you can just grade them with a microplane into food, into rice, and get the health benefits from them. Other plants like hibiscus, red zinger tea is made from that specific sabdifera, hibiscus sabdifera, which is roselle, red roselle.
Hey,
Those
Marianne,
are
got to cut you off real quick. We have to take a news break, top of the hour for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. We are going to come back, so do stay with us, wrapping things up with Marianne Willburn. And again, do apologize for cutting you off, but we have to stick to our network commitments, John, not just Facebook Live. So, with that in mind, those on Facebook, news coming up top of the hour. We're back at 6 minutes after. Those on Facebook Live, it's going to be a quicker break, so do stay with us. Talking to Marianne Willburn this morning. We are talking tropicals. This is Garden America. John Bagnasco. Tiger is off camping in Flagstaff. I'm Brian Main. Back after these messages and news on Biz Talk Radio. All right, we are back after the break, back after the news update on Biz Talk Radio. If you are just joining us on Biz Talk Radio, this is our number 2. We are talking to Marianne Willburn. We're talking tropicals this morning. Those on Facebook Live, hang in there. Questions, comments, I'll post them right there on the comment section of our Facebook page. John, we continue. And again, our apologies to Marianne, but again, those not pesky, but those great network commitments.
Well, they keep us on the air, Brian.
They do, yes, indeed.
Just prior to the news break, Marianne was explaining about friends with benefits as it relates to house plants. But
yeah, this is a gardening show for those just tuning in.
This is a gardening show, but also, Brian, how do you handle the breakup with a high maintenance beauty?
Usually a text. It's a different world. I'm a coward.
Well, I'm talking about plants.
I deal with it with a compost pile.
Yeah. See, there you go. That's a great idea. A little more something to be said about a compost pile and getting rid of a plant. Yes.
Well, it's a little less. There's a little less guilt involved, and you don't have to block a number or anything like that.
Absolutely, or drop that plant as a friend, as it were.
And I know we joke about these relationship categories, and it is funny, but it's a very memorable way for people to realize there's not just one way to deal with these plants, and that you don't have to go all in. If you feel like just dabbling a little bit and just seeing how a plant could cope with your garden and with your life too, what you're willing to give it, you can do that there, and you don't have to do it one way. And that's the reason that I came up with the idea of the relationship with a plant, because we all have relationships with plants anyway. Sometimes they are indifferent relationships. Sometimes they're sentimental relationships. There's all sorts of different relationships with plants. This just makes sort of a mnemonic device for people to be able to not feel scared about trying these plants.
I wonder sometimes if you can look at an orchid, not the regular maintenance, because it seems like they last forever, but trying to get them to rebloom sometimes is high maintenance.
Yeah.
And whether or not it might be a good idea sometimes to just cut the cord when they're done blooming, treat them like a bouquet of flowers, and go get another one.
Go get another one. We've talked about that before as well. What's easier? What's the simple way?
Yeah.
It depends on your skill level, I think. That's really what it boils down to, not just your skill level, but the conditions that you can grow them under. Can you give them that east-facing window at about 60 degrees in the winter? Can you give them exactly what they want? And if you can't, then you're you're constantly failing with this plant that maybe you picked up for $12 because it was in full bloom and it was gorgeous. Are you beating yourself up as a gardener because you can't bring it back into bloom? And if you are, if the answer is yes, that's not really a great place to be every time you look at it. And I don't like to be in that situation. We need a few high maintenance partners in our lives to teach us a lot of lessons, not just in real life, but in our plant life.
Right.
They teach us to be better gardeners. But sometimes we recognize, okay, I don't have the conditions to make this plant happy. I can't change those. I'm not going to grow it any longer. Or I'm going to grow it just for what I can get out of it.
Is that where you look at the plant and say, it's not you, it's me?
That's exactly right, and that's a header in my book.
Yeah.
And it really is me. It really is me. This is my garden, and I want to feel joyful here. I want to learn, but I also don't want to be constantly beating myself because I've got all these just half alive plants. So I take on maybe 2 or 3 or 4 maybe high maintenance partners every winter to learn something new about them, and we usually get through the winter okay, but maybe 2 or 3 winters, and then we're done.
Well, Marianne, what about a few? Lastly, I should say, what about a few best friend relationships that are going to last us a lifetime?
Yeah, those are the plants that just go completely dormant down to the storage organ of the plant, or down to just down to stems, and then they can be put into dark conditions. They don't need light over the winter. They just need to be kept above freezing. And most of us have some place like that in our house, whether it's a deep, dark basement or a garage or a cupboard that's well far away from the heater. And I call them best friends because they give so much. They're so easy, and they are the easiest to overwinter. And those are things like, canna is one of them. For you guys, canna is completely hardy, but for us it is not, but it goes dormant. The gingers, all of the wonderful gingers, the turmerics, those are best friend plants. Plumeria, that beautiful sort of flowering tree that makes up Hawaiian leis that are given to you at the airport. I assume they still are. That's a best friend plant. That can go into dark storage. Brugmansia, which is angel's trumpet, that can go into dark storage, be cut back, and then come back out and start again in the spring. So I think a lot of people don't recognize that you don't have to overwinter these plants just by bringing them into your living room and then battling spider mite for the next 5 months. You can put them into dark storage, and they'll be fine. They just need to be checked on every 4 to 5 weeks. Brian's red Abyssinian banana. You just need to pull it. You can keep it in its pot, or you can pull it out and just have the roots and wrap those in a towel, put it in a bag, and store it upright in the garage or in a basement. And you'll be able to start again in the spring. And you can do that as long as you can continue to lift it.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes a high maintenance partner. It moves from best friend to high maintenance partner when it's 100 pounds.
Well, Marianne Willburn, thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to share your tips on tropical plants and how to love them. Marianne's new book, which is available from Amazon. And can people contact you if they want to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. You can contact me at Marianne at mariannewillburn.com. Okay. I also write on Garden Rants. You can contact me there at gardenrant.com. And on Instagram, marianne.willburn.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Marianne, and go start to get your plants ready to survive the winter.
It was my pleasure. Thank you both.
Thank you so much. Yep. Yeah, she's very good. You know what? A lot of good information. I think tropicals are my favorite. If you had to, sit me down in a chair with a bright light and tell me to you got to tell the truth, I would say tropicals.
Well, I don't think she realized that the red bananas are hardy here.
Yeah, they are very hardy. I just leave it all year long.
Right.
Yeah.
But up by where I am, because of the winter, they look terrible during the winter. But then they come out with new leaves in the spring, and they look great. But the one I have in the ground is, got sunburn all over it from the last 2 weeks.
I've got a couple of leaves that look like that, but for the most part, they're doing very well. One was a miracle that came back, as you know.
Right.
When
that one surprised me. How big is that now?
3 feet.
Really?
It's not growing as fast as the original, but it's doing okay.
But it
it's
died down to almost nothing.
to nothing, to probably maybe 2 inches.
Right.
And I said, what is left here? What is this remaining? This.
And I said, why don't you try watering it?
And I asked you, what is this water you speak of? You explained that whole operation, and voila, there we go. We've got, let's see here. It's too early to take a break. We've got about 30 seconds. Those on Facebook Live are getting more comments. That's cool. Questions, comments, perhaps something we talked about this morning with Marianne. Or you want to talk to one of us as hopefully this heat starts to cool down and we get into the fall, winter months here in Southern California. So with that in mind, we are going to take a break here for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Tiger is off camping in Flagstaff, Arizona at an elevation of over 7,200 feet. The rest of us, that being myself, John Bagnasco, we're going to take a break. We are back here on Garden America, I should say, for your weekend. So do stay with us, taking a break for Biz Talk Radio. We have returned from the proverbial break on Biz Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. By the way, we do encourage you to visit our website, gardenamerica.com. Again, that's gardenamerica.com. See what's new and exciting. Click around. Also, you can subscribe to our newsletter. It's the hottest thing out there in the horticultural world, gardenamerica.com.
Don't forget, it's www.gardenamerica.com.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The www.
I know you like to say that.
No, we say that sarcastically because, in fact, I read a lot of commercials during the week. And in the copy, it'll say www. There's no other way to get onto the internet. You can just go to Google and type in what you need. For those that have been struggling with the 3 W's for all these years, John.
Yeah, World Wide Web. Hey, Kevin up in Idaho sends greetings, and he mentions that he had to leave behind all his staghorn ferns, bromeliads, plumerias, and orchids when he moved. But he said that he's got new best friends.
Way to go, Kevin. I've known Kevin for several decades, all the way back to junior high school.
His new best friends are dahlias, peonies, Japanese maples, and rhododendrons.
Way to go, Kevin.
Yeah.
I like to hear that. And also, Kevin's a friend of the show, Garden America.
He is a friend.
We're starting to develop what we call friends of the show. That's a good idea. Somehow we should work that into something. Friends of the show,
That's
Garden
a good
America.
idea. And charge people to be a friend, right?
I don't know about that, John, but
all right. I
Daniel's
thought you had
here.
something
Our
there.
IT guy, Daniel's here. He can figure that out on the website.
Carla says, speaking of tropicals, did I get to the Plumeria show last weekend, and did I buy any? I was going to wait till Tiger came back to talk about that.
I forgot about that. You did go to that show last weekend
go.
with Shannon, right? Did she go with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was her idea, actually.
Room 101?
Room 101, and it was about it was a wait to get into it.
Really?
There was a long line.
Big old line, standing room only?
The line, it wasn't as long. It was longer than the post office to get in, but not as long as the DMV.
Okay, somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between.
And
right.
maybe the people were a bit nicer?
And everybody was happy. And I started to get nervous in the line because people were walking by me with armfuls of plumeria. And it made me uncomfortable. It's like, oh my gosh, is there going to be anything left?
Yeah.
Do I want that?
There was
one?
plenty, right?
But Carla brings it up, and the reason I was going to wait till next week to talk to Tiger about it is because I'm working on an article for next week's newsletter called I Just Bought the 2 Ugliest Plants at the Show. And and to me, that is what I did get 2 plants. And I was thinking that as people were walking by, that's what they might be thinking is, did he just buy the 2 ugliest plants here? Anyway.
But that's in the eye of the beholder. I'm anxious to see what you mean by
that's
ugly.
why they would have said that.
Okay.
But I'll explain more next week, and hopefully I can finish that article for the newsletter.
So those that are tuning in.
It was a lot of fun. The other good thing was the shave ice with the vanilla ice cream.
Oh, boy. It's your favorite.
I don't think I ever had shave ice with ice cream.
But you did last week.
I did, yeah. And I thought, why have I not done this before?
So there's another reason to tune in next week to talk about NC John's ugly plants, waiting for Tiger
They're not ugly.
to return. That's what I was going to say. Who says it's ugly?
Yeah.
Right?
And the one plant that would have been beautiful was a Fantasia plumeria, which is striped flowers. You never see striped flowers
No,
on
very
plumeria.
rarely.
Right. And I had already bought two, and I told my wife, I've been looking for this plant for a long time. We need to get it. And my wife said, you need to have something to look forward to, so you're not getting it.
I see.
I think it's
get it.
because it was $95, and we'd already spent like $140, and she said, "No,
That's it.
that's
Ugly-
enough. You can have a shave ice."
Ugly plants, but great personalities, right,
Right.
John?
So let's see. Anyway, thank you for the reminder there, Carla. You know, heirloom rose. Carla also mentions that heirloom roses has their hydrangeas for $19.99 this weekend, which is about half price. But I went on. Carla mentioned this last week that they had a sale, and I went online, and they probably have 40 or 50 varieties, but there were only 6 available.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll have to see if others have come back into availability, but wasn't anything I wanted back then. Let's see.
You see what Tanya wrote?
Tanya says, what? Years ago, a friend had a podcast which he referred to as 3 Friends in Your Head. That's how I feel about you.
Can't get us out of your head. Well, thank you, Tanya. Yeah, we feel the same way about our listeners and viewers, but it's a lot more than 3. So we have a lot more to deal with up in our head. But thank you, Tanya. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that is nice.
Very nice. Okay, so we got a little bit of rain this week, yesterday. I know you're watering every day. Did that even help?
Well, today, you know what? I think that it was such a slow rain and I had been keeping plants watered anyway.
It's like a big soaker hose.
Yeah. I think that I'm going to be able to spend the rest of today weeding.
Wow.
So I'm going to go out. I got the new Conahoe that John Clements told us about.
Right. And the rain
Gina went and bought me one for my birthday, which is not till October, but she's got that out of the way.
But I was going to say, the rain loosened up the soil, so pulling weeds should be a bit easier.
Yeah, that's why
Easier.
I told you to come on over. Bring Dana.
You know what? Today's not a good day for that. I think I'm sitting on the couch.
You know, I always, when it comes to pulling weeds, it reminds me of playing golf. Because if I was out playing golf, the whole time I would be thinking, I could be pulling weeds and enjoying it so much more.
You've never played golf?
Rarely.
Or you did at one time?
Well, I've played golf, but not on purpose. I mean, more that I was forced to.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, the last time I played golf was with my wife, and we got to about, I think, the 8th or 9th hole, and she said, "You're losing all our balls. You're not playing anymore."
That's it. You're cut off.
So I just followed her around till we finished hole 18, and that was it.
Hey, before the break, Rick is in Dana Point. Welcome, Rick. Rick says, visiting Dana Point, I can't believe the heat and the humidity. I don't think I've ever been to the beach and felt this kind of heat. Rick, I've been here all my life, San Diego, and I don't recall this kind of heat and humidity. It's more like Midwest, back east, Florida. And it's going to break, though. It's going to break soon. So, Rick, don't know how long you're here, but hang in there, buddy.
I think Rick's sister Lynette lives in Dana Point, and Lynette occasionally sends us pictures of her garden for the newsletter, as Rick often does.
You know, speaking of golf and horticulture, Kevin says that he uses a 9-iron to whack dandelions. You can combine the two.
I would like to combine a golf club and a Conahoe.
Okay.
You know, and just swing that thing.
We've got to take a break so we can marinate on that during the Biz Talk Radio commercial break. Those of us on Facebook Live, the break's going to be much quicker. So do stay with us. Still plenty of time for your questions, your comments right up there on your computer screen in the comments section. What's on your mind? I'm Brian Main, John Bagnesco. This is Garden America. We are back. We are enjoying part of our weekend together. Brian Main, John Bagnesco. It is Saturday morning. If you're watching us live, if you're on Biz Talk Radio, it's still Saturday morning, but this is last week's show, pre-recorded show. Again, gardenamerica.com. That's where you want to be. That should be a favorite. That should be saved. Whatever you do, wherever you go. Digital, streaming, YouTube, gardenamerica.com, live on Facebook, Biz Talk Radio. Just a few of the very many sources that you can reach us or watch us on. So there you go, John. All those places that carry Garden America. And I believe if you ask Alexa to play, is it Garden America? Is it play, what is it, Daniel?
Gardening radio, podcast radio.
Yeah, something about play Garden America podcast or garden radio. Then Alexa will play one of our shows. How about that? I tested it. It works. It's interesting because I'm not sure where they're pulling from, but on one, there was a commercial break, and on the other, there was no commercial break at all.
No, I tried it because you mentioned that last week. I went home and I said, Alexa, play, and nothing happened.
Do you know how to use Alexa?
Do you have to have Alexa?
It does help. People recommend that you do.
Mm-hmm. See, I don't even know what that is.
It's probably on Google Nest, too.
Oh, yeah, Google Nest it would be, right. Now, that's another Alexa type of device. So Google Nest or Alexa for those that want to listen to Alexa while you're washing the dishes, you're out by the pool, or just kind of hanging out, and you can listen to gardening talk. Are we caught up, John?
Carla wanted to know how you spell Conahoe, and she spelled it right. So I don't know.
Are you verifying?
Well, I'm going to look on Amazon, and it might be one word. Because the one my daughter bought me, I believe, was on Amazon. Well, I'll tell you what, it's not coming up. Well, I know Gina's listening, so... Oh, wait, here it is. Conahoe.
It sounds Hawaiian, John.
Yeah. So Carla, you spelled it correctly. If you go on Amazon and you just search for Kana, and then Ho, H-O-E, it comes up. And the one that Gina bought me is, there's some different ones there. It's the one that has the hooked end to it. There's another one that looks like a regular hoe. That's not it. And that wouldn't do me any good. But the one with the hook on the end looks similar to a Cape Cod hoe, which was my favorite tool before getting the Conahoe. You don't have to live in Cape Cod to use it, Brian.
Okay.
Do you ever wonder if we are going to run out of things to say on the radio?
Oh, I'm done. I've exhausted any of my information or my cute little quips that I had prepared. No, there's always something to talk about. There is always something. In fact, if it gets a bit slow, then I can just ask you a random question.
Sometimes we go off topic.
It's okay to go off topic now and then. All it is a little detour. As long as you get back on that freeway of the horticultural environment, we're okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Carla, go to Amazon. Carla was asking if there was a www website for the Conahoe.
The World Wide Web, the information highway. Yeah. It sounds so 90s.
And our buddy in Oceanside says, hi, Jimmy. By the way, we should invite Jimmy to...
the auction.
To the auction, which is going to be in October, and it's going to be in Oceanside.
In his neighborhood.
Right, and on...
Jimmy, come by and see us. The date is October 30th.
29th and 30th. Right. 29th is the show.
Well, I say 30th because that's when I have to be there.
Right, and the 30th is going to be the birthday celebration for...
Marianne Ross.
Marianne Ross.
94?
94. Well, hopefully we'll have a cake, and hopefully she's well enough to attend.
Sure.
Her son's going to bring her by. And it should be kind of fun. The reason Marianne Ross is going to be there is because Burling Leong, who is the owner of Burlington Nurseries, or Burlington Nursery that we've had on the show before, just bred a new rose and called it Marianne Ross. And it's really cool because it's pink, but the center is tan.
See, I like that.
Yeah, you like those odd colors.
I do like the stripes, the odd colors, the double, triple colors.
Yeah, so it's fun. If you want to see a picture of that rose, by the way, if you go to ccrsauction.com.
California Coastal Rose Society is
Right.
what that is.
That's exactly right. ccrsauction.com. Right there on the front page, you'll see a picture of Marianne Ross and a picture of her rose right next to it. So, and the rose will be in the auction, so it'll be a fun thing to do. Plus,
be fun.
It's in combination with the San Diego Rose Society this year, and there will be a full-on rose show. So you can come, you can look at roses, you can buy roses, you
That
can
happened
listen.
a few years ago, right? The combination of the two, or is that the national?
That was the national.
That
right.
was the national.
Right.
Still a good time.
Yeah.
Roses galore. More everything.
Yeah, it sounds like an Ian Fleming character.
Doesn't it?
Roses galore, yeah.
Yeah, roses galore. So that's going to be October 29th and 30th. Now,
Right.
what is the building called? Do you just have an address? Is it a particular building we need to look for?
Yes, you can't just go into Oceanside, Brian. It is a particular building.
You just can't go until you see roses.
No. Especially since they'll be inside, but it's at the, I think it's the El Corazon Senior Center.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a huge venue. So it will be, if you go to the website we just told you about, you can see where it is. You can find the links. Also, if you're coming from out of town and you want to spend the night, we have special rooms available right across the street at the Marriott. And I think the website will give you the information on the code to use to get the discounted rate. But so you could come in on Saturday and spend the day looking at the rose show and then listening to the speakers.
All that in the Hyatt Regency, too?
3 great speakers. No, Marriott.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Hyatt.
Marriott.
Yeah. And then spend the night, Saturday night, right?
Marriott.
And be there Sunday.
All that in the Marriott.
Yeah.
Rick says, when I get back to Idaho, I'm going to go with native plants. I've tried planting a lot of different plants, but like you said earlier, it's a little bit too difficult to deal with the weather.
Yeah, it's the thing about the 4-season climates is
You said the Marriott now.
Yeah.
Oh, you just said 4 seasons. Okay, all right.
No, this is completely different
Okay,
now.
I'm with
We're
you.
talking about climate.
Okay, go ahead, John.
All right. The thing about the 4-season climates and the reason people like them so much is because 2 of the seasons are miserable, summer and winter. So people really appreciate the spring and the fall, and they look forward to those times a year. Really?
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I understand what Rick's saying. I mean, they just had almost another whole month in near 100-degree temperature.
Did you read Gina's comment prior to Rick?
No, I did not.
She's dreaming of what she can plant now to keep her from dreaming of it through winter. What's your favorite fall planting for spring?
Well, if I lived in Idaho,
Well, yeah, that's going to be different than living here in San Diego.
yeah, there's all kinds of perennials that can come up. I'd be looking for peonies to plant now, so that hopefully that they might come up in the spring and bloom.
By the way, Jimmy says that that's right around the corner from his house.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so Jimmy, no excuses. Even if it's a cameo, come by and say hi.
He can walk. He
And
won't
you-
even
yeah,
need to take the bus.
And you can bid. I don't know if you've ever been, Jimmy, but I'll tell you what, there's serious bidders out there.
I don't know if Jimmy has room for roses. He's got so much over there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a full-on garden. I think he used to have a farm stand there.
Right, sold fruit to the passing cars.
Yeah.
Fruit
yeah.
and veggies.
He grew a lot of tomatoes. I know that. So that will be fun. Carla's up. You're up in Huntington Beach, Carla, but come on down on
Come on down,
Saturday
Carla.
with the whole family. Spend the night.
Look at you. I think John's getting a hotel deal himself. You know, John, if you can book us at least 20 people, then we'll give you a free night stay for you and your family.
We only have 15 rooms available.
Oh,
at
15.
that special rate, yeah.
Look at you. You know everything, don't you?
Well,
I
our
think you're in
buddy
cahoots.
Joel is the one who's arranged all this, and he told me about it just yesterday.
And Joel will be there.
Yeah, Joel will be there. The 3 speakers, by the way, we're going to have Greg Lowry from Vintage Gardens in Sebastopol.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, and Anita Clevenger from
What?
Yes, from the Heirloom Rose Society.
Doesn't get any better than this.
And then of course Berling Leong. Wow. Who just did the Marianne Ross Rose.
How about Ping? How come Ping doesn't show up?
Ping is usually there every year. I haven't talked to Ping yet. I don't know. You want Ping there?
I would like Ping there. Are you kidding? He's a big shot in the industry. Hey, with that in mind, we're going to take a break. And guess what? This is moving right along this morning. One more segment to go here on Biz Talk Radio and Facebook Live. So any more questions, comments on Facebook Live, go ahead and post them as John and I will look at them. We'll read them. And, of course, we'll respond. But in the meantime, one more break, one more segment after that. Going to take a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. If you do listen to Biz Talk Radio, occasionally want to watch us live, go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show. You can watch us live and also, of course, interact live. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. As we say in the industry, John, the mics are hot. Careful what you say. The mics are hot on Facebook Live. The mics are hot on Biz Talk Radio. Our final segment on your Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, or maybe it's the middle of the night because you're listening to a pre-recorded show. Maybe you have your earbuds on.
Have you ever said anything that you'd be ashamed to have go over a hot mic? I can't think of anything.
Yeah, early on in my career, I think. Yeah, I think so. Not a lot. I think something did slip out. You know what? When I was back in college, I was doing a radio show on the FM college campus, and there was a picture window, and on the other side of the picture window were people getting ready for the news. And so, of course, they can hear me when the mic's on.
Right.
They can't hear me when the mic is off. So I was doing a segment. I thought I'd turn my mic off, and I think I said something inappropriate, and they both looked up at me at the same time with their eyes as big as dinner plates. And I went, oh, excuse me. Turn the mic off.
Did you not have a delay?
No, college campus, no. You learn your lesson. I got a better story than that, though. A quick story.
Oh, good, because I was thinking that one wasn't really that great.
No, this is maybe a little funnier. So I'm working on the AM station from 6 to 9 in the morning, and it was my first shift, and it was college campus radio station. It only broadcast through the dorms. It didn't
That's prime time, drive time.
Yeah, it didn't go out into the town in Flagstaff, just into the dorms.
Uh-huh.
So I get up and I'm feeling good. I'm having a good show, playing the records, playing the hits, stacks of wax, playing the hits that get the chicks, popping pumping the wattage through your cottage, all those old DJ terms, right? So it's about 8:45. I've got 15 minutes to go, and the station manager comes in and says, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, you know what, Bill? I'm doing so good. I'm into the groove. I'm playing the music. I just feel good this morning." He goes, "That's good to hear." He says, "Hey, by the way, next time you might want to turn the transmitter on." And he flicked the switch, meaning I was talking to nobody for close to 3 hours. Here's that little switcher you might want to turn on. And I'm
good
thinking,
practice, though, right?
It was good practice, but I'll never forget that. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. Nobody heard that show except me. Anyway, on to what we're here to talk about, John. Looking at Facebook, right?
Well, I was looking because Lenore was asking a question, and I think it's about the hoe. And the hoe we were talking about is kana, K-A-N-A. Right, kana hoe. It sounds Hawaiian, doesn't it?
Oh, that's what I said before. It's Kanaho's got to be, welcome to the Kanaho Hotel.
Yeah.
Kanaho Outdoor Rigging.
Yeah. Oh, she puts C-A-N-A or K-A-N-A. It's K.
K-A-N-A, right?
K-A-N-A. Yep. Right there on Amazon. Easy to, I think they have long-handled ones too, but I like to kneel down on the ground and be able to pull those weeds out.
Do you still have your kneeling bench?
I do.
You use it?
Oh, yeah.
All the time, right?
If you don't have a kneeling bench, how do you get up once you're down there?
But here's the thing, too. You can pray at the same time. While you're out there. It's 2 for 1.
That's
pray,
true.
We call it,
yeah.
John, pray and pull. Pray and pull. Kneeling bench, the weeds, pray and pull.
There's certainly a lot of cursing going on when you're pulling out weeds. So,
yeah.
So praying, putting a little prayer in there might not hurt.
I've got an empty pot at home. Still has soil.
You have
in
an
it.
empty pot?
I know, right? It's still got soil in there from what used to be in there.
Yeah.
And I went out last
That means
night.
you killed what was in there, right?
Not necessarily, because I could have taken it out and put it in a bigger pot.
You could have,
kept
but you
most of the
didn't,
soil.
right? It died.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good call. So I noticed about a week ago, there was a little something blooming in there coming up. I thought, that's a weed. How cute. I went out there last night. This weed must be 5 feet now. Very thin, growing straight up out of this pot. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Grow. I've got nothing to put in there. Let's just see how tall you get.
Still cute?
I'm going to take it. Yeah, I'm going to take a picture of it so you can see it. It's one of those weeds that I've seen in a lot of pots this year from birds dropping, from the wind or whatever. But this thing is huge now. So you know what? You can grow. I've got no plans for the pot.
Well, that is one thing about the heat that we had. It was so hot, and I did so much watering that the weeds were growing by leaps and bounds.
Right, everywhere.
I have grass that's now almost knee-high just after 2 weeks, from nothing to knee-high in 2 weeks.
And it used to be knee-high to a grasshopper. Now it's just knee-high to you, right?
I have grasshoppers, too. Big ones this year.
Really big ones?
Yeah.
They're eating well. Kind of biblical grasshoppers?
Almost. I was just looking at, I guess it was the new Jurassic Park.
Did you see it?
Had swarms of locusts, yeah. Made the mistake of watching it on, I think it was 1999, but it was only $4.99 if you watched it on one of those channels. But I didn't realize it was the extended version. And when you watch the extended version of something, you're watching all the scenes they cut out because they were too boring to be in the theater.
Right, and they have to keep it on time as well. The theaters want you to, in and out.
So it was a little boring. The first half was a little boring, but the second half was typical Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm. Did you like it?
I liked it, but I always like those.
I do too.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like dinosaurs?
I don't think Shannon liked it. She said it was just like all the other ones. She didn't say it was as bad as all the other ones. She just said it was like all the other ones.
In this one, though, they brought back a lot of the original actors from the
They
first
brought all
two.
the ones back.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, the Sam...
Right.
What's his name?
Laura Dern.
Yeah, Laura
then,
Dern. And then
our buddy that does those commercials for the apartments.com.
Who's that?
Big tall guy.
The guy that was the fly.
Yes, the guy that was the... This is ridiculous. Somebody on Facebook's going to go, hey, you know what? The actor's name is this.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Come on.
It's
Daniel.
a gold something.
Oh, Jeff Goldstein.
Jeff
Goldblum.
Jeff
Goldblum. Thank
right.
you. We got it.
Yeah. 3
very active minds here in the studio, right?
Kevin wants to know if we have well water in Fallbrook to water the plants. And we do not. My neighbor has a well. Actually, both my neighbors to either side have wells. And we've thought about it. We're doing solar right now. But putting in a well is expensive.
It is.
It's like $70,000.
Is that all?
Is that all?
Hey, that's going to do it, John. We're out of time. My gosh. Goodness
You know what?
gracious.
If you put in the well for me, if you don't think it's much, you can come by and get all the water you want.
For free? I can have all the water for the rest of my life?
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Those on Biz Talk Radio, those on Facebook Live, we do appreciate it. We're back next week. Tiger is back in studio, and then John's going to tell his story. That you want to wait for Tiger to get back into the studio, right, John, before you talk about the Room 101 Plumeria experience.
Yeah, and I'll try to put an article in the newsletter.
Okay, thank you so much. In the meantime, I want to thank Daniel, our IT guy. He's got our website up and running. He's the guy that keeps things moving, running the cameras today. Thank you, Daniel. And for the rest of you, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll do it again next week right here, 6 minutes after the hour, 6 after 8 o'clock on the West Coast. Eastern Time Zone, 11:06. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. I'm Brian Main. John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. He's back next week. In the meantime, thank you for tuning in to this edition, this latest show, this program. Garden America. Take care.